the Republican primary for U.S. Senate has kind of come and gone, but um, there's still, the McDaniel hasn't conceded. What kind of impact do you think for short term and long term this is going to have within the state Republican Party?
I think there's some healing to do, but let me say this: the challenge has been filed, and the statute provides that 10 days after the challenge is filed by the party, then it must go to court. And so I think we've seen in the news reports and exchanges of letters that's what's going to happen, that within 10 days a court will actually have possession of the issue, and the court will set up a procedure and a timetable to adjudicate it and give us a fair decision. And at that point, I think it is time for it to be over. But now that we're seeing an opportunity for litigation to be filed, I think we see the light at the end of the tunnel.
And I know that former Senator Trent Lott said that there might be time for a leadership change in the state party. Is that something that you think?
I think probably that he's walked that statement back. That for all intents and purposes, the leader of the state party is the governor.
Right.
When the Republicans are in charge of the governorship, the governor is the leader of the party, much as Barack Obama is the leader of the National Democratic Party. So I think I support Governor Bryant and whoever he decides to put in that position.
And something that's pretty big around here, the National Guard's 155th Brigade.
Right.
There's still talk about it leaving this area. Do you have any?
Yes, I've been very much involved in that.
What?
As a member of the Armed Services Committee in the Senate, we have worked very, very hard. And I know Senator Cochran, as a senior member of the Appropriations Committee, also is committed to keeping our Apaches with the National Guard. We work with General Collins, the Adjutant General of the state of Mississippi, and he believes that the proposed Army changes to the National Guard would set us back in Mississippi for a decade. So we're very much all about protecting the 155th and our National Guard units and keeping our Apaches there. And there's legislation in the National Defense Authorization Act, which has come out of my Airland subcommittee and has now been reported to the full Senate floor, that would give us the relief we need.
And so what's next with this?
What's next is that I hope in September the majority leader will allow the National Defense Authorization Act to come to the floor. It's actually my number one priority for September. We need to get it done before the end of the fiscal year. There are any number of issues in addition to the National Guard issue that need to be adjudicated. We've got the C-130J aircraft at Keesler, which are being protected with some language that I have in the Senate bill and which the House also has. There's authorization for an additional amphibious ship to be built at Ingalls. So there's a lot that needs to be done, and we need to get it done before the current bill expires. That's why September is a very important time. And I know that the majority leader is reluctant to bring bills like that forward, but this is really what we've been elected to do, and I can't think of a better way to start out September than to get this defense authorization bill done.
And something else that you mentioned to the Civitan through Afghanistan. Recently, the two-star general was killed, and this was the first time in I believe it's almost a decade or so since this has happened, and I know that your son is serving there. The increased violence there, has that changed your view on us?
Well, this was an assassination, It was not a combat death. It's outrageous and regrettable, and there will be consequences for the individual involved. But things like that can happen at Fort Hood in the continental United States. But here's the larger point with Afghanistan. The tribal council, consisting of hundreds and hundreds of representatives from every tribe, every corner of Afghanistan. They technically call it the Loya Jirga. They have met and unanimously endorsed the comprehensive peace agreement with the United States. They have asked us and our allies to stay as a stabilizing force to prevent a return to what we saw in 2001 and before. The current president was opposed to this agreement, and his candidate came in third in the presidential election. We just had a runoff, and that is being subject to an audit right now. But the two finalists for president of Afghanistan are agreed to support this comprehensive peace agreement with the United States and with our allies, to ask us to stay and make sure that what happened in Iraq doesn't happen in Afghanistan also. And so I hope we will listen to the people that are there on the ground. I hope we will listen to the generals, including the immediate commandant of the Marine Corps, who have very strongly said that we can maintain the gains that we have had over a decade plus, but it would be very, very foolish and very, very risky for us to leave with no follow-on force.
Right, because now the plan is that we'll be completely out of there by 2017.
Yes, and I do think even the new leadership that's moving in, being put in place there by President Obama, they have said that we could have used a great deal more ambiguity there. I think it's a mistake in military situations when we take things off the table and rule them out completely. But our leadership has also said that they reserve the right to reassess on the ground, and if there is one thing I could ask the president to do, first and foremost, in a foreign policy context, it would be to listen to the generals and not let the same debacle that happened in Iraq happen again in Afghanistan. And there are many things that the president needs to do on a foreign policy basis, but it would be a grave mistake to completely abandon these people who have relied on us and who continue to ask just for our presence as a stabilizing force.